Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Monday, November 10th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. On today's episode, we'll break down the weekend box office with Variety's Rebecca Rubin. And then we'll hear from Jordan Moreau about his profile of writer-director Edgar Wright, the stylish British helmer behind next weekend's big movie opener, The Running Man. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. BBC News is in a world of hurt right now. Two top leaders, Tim Davie and Deborah Turnus, have stepped down amid accusations that BBC News deceptively edited footage of Donald Trump related to the January 6th riot. Trump is now threatening legal action. It's a big mess being sorted through. One thing's for sure, this scandal has just made every journalist's job that much harder. Speaking of a changing landscape for journalism, CNN has struck what my colleague Brian Steinberg calls a bold advertising deal with T-Mobile. T-Mobile's logo will turn up often on CNN's digital screens when CNN reporters and correspondents deliver live reportage from outside the studio. The great Vince Gill will be honored with the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Kudo at the 59th Annual CMA Awards to air live November 19th on ABC. I love the way he plays. And don't skip Chris Willman's review of Saturday's 5-hour Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It's packed with great quotes, great photos, and great Willman observations. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now it's time for conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. If it's Monday, we're talking box office with Rebecca Rubin. Variety's box office chief, Predator Badlands, impressed in its opening weekend, to the relief of Disney and 20th Century Studios. But star power couldn't save Paramount's Die My Love or the indie boxing biopic Christie, even with Sydney Sweeney on the marquee. Well, Rebecca, it was a Predator Badlands kind of weekend at the box office. Obviously, this movie, the umpteenth in this enduring franchise, did pretty well, got the faithful out. Did it surprise you that Predator Badlands led the box office this week?
So heading into the weekend, Predator Badlands was getting really great word of mouth, and I thought that might help the film overperform in its opening weekend, and I definitely think that's what ended up happening. The projections were that the film was going to make between 25 and 30 million, and it ended up making 40 million, which is a much needed win, not only for the box office, but Disney has surprisingly not had such a great streak with Tron Ares not doing so well and the Springsteen movie not doing so well.
And their earnings are coming on Thursday, so never hurts to have an overperforming opening. Once again, let me ask you, was large format a factor here? Did this have the visual spectacle that people go to for those kinds of things?
Absolutely. So nearly 60% of the domestic tally came from premium large formats. That included IMAX, Dolby. Also 3D was popular. And so it's showing again that the visual spectacle is really a big draw to get people to theaters. And you mentioned there's been many Predator sequels, reboots, crossover films, and this film had the biggest domestic and global launch of the 9 films in the property. And so it's definitely an encouraging sign that audiences are still interested in it. And this is the first theatrical entry since the Disney and 20th Century Fox merger. The last 2 installments, one was Prey, which came out in 2022, and then another one was an animated adventure that's called Killer of Killers that came out in June. And those both were direct-to-streaming movies. Disney's actually had a lot of great success recently in reviving 20th century franchises, and so this was just another notch on showing the long-term value of acquiring that library.
That is the value of this kind of IP, and I just have to chuckle because Badlands, of course, is a 1973 independent film by Terrence Malick, very moody, very 70s cinema, and I was just thinking about the juxtaposition. I think clearly the next Predator movie should be in the hands of Terrence Malick. So again, this was a nice surprise. Anything at all stand out to you about the performance this weekend?
There were a bunch of movies that opened that were catering more towards older audiences or art house crowds. By contrast, Predator Badlands was, of course, a big budget tentpole that's trying to get all audiences to theaters. Some of the movies that were targeting not such a broad audience were Die My Love, which is a dark psychological drama with Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. Another one was Sydney Sweeney's boxing biopic Christie. That's about the trailblazing boxer. And neither of those movies did particularly well this weekend. They both were in low single digits. For a movie like Die My Love, bought that out of Cannes and they paid $24 million. Die My Love also got a D+ grade on CinemaScore exit polls, which it's pretty rare for a film to get that kind of a grade. But when they do, it's really because a film is super polarizing and very unsettling to watch. For Die My Love, it's starring Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. And while they have both made unconventional and very art house choices in their post-franchise careers, Jennifer Lawrence on her press tour, she's been very, very funny promoting this movie, but she's told a lot of people that she doesn't want it to seem like they're promoting some Katniss Everdeen and Edward Cullen crossover fan fiction, because the movie is nowhere near as commercial and populist as Hunger Games and Twilight, the two properties that they are most known for.
People with long memories will remember that both of those came from Summit Entertainment, which was swallowed up by Lionsgate right around the time Hunger Games was the red hottest property at the box office. But as you say, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence, Robert Pattinson, and Sydney Sweeney and Christie, that's a lot of star power that didn't connect. One thing I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, Universal is going for it with the marketing for Wicked for Good. We've seen TV specials. We're seeing all kinds of marketing pop up. An interesting one that I came across the other day, driving home from an event in Hollywood the other night, I came across just a little bit east of La Brea on Santa Monica Boulevard. There appears to be a scene from Wicked for Good being projected against the side of a big, tall, white building, like it that appears to be a permanent display. It will be really interesting to see how this mobilizes a fan base to the box office, and if intense kind of blitz marketing can make that extra difference in 10% or 20%. Curious what you're seeing in New York and what you're watching on that front for Wicked for Good.
There are definitely a lot of posters hanging in Times Square around the city for Wicked, so they are on a full blitz promotional tour. And they actually started promoting this movie a little later than they started promoting the first one. I think they didn't want to inundate audiences and have people get tired of hearing about Wicked after they had a huge press cycle for the first movie. That being said, ticket sales, pre-sales right now, uh, are looking very promising, and the expectation is that it's going to have a debut well above the first movie, which opened to 112 million. And so the Thanksgiving corridor is looking very strong because Zootopia 2 opens shortly after that. Both of those movies are expected to have big debuts well above $100 million, which will be very needed. And so something like Badlands is just providing a little early momentum, which is great for some of the releases in between. Next weekend, there's The Running Man with Glenn Powell and Now You See Me 3. And so getting people in theaters this weekend and exposing them to trailers, the hope is that people will be going to the big screen, not just for Wicked and Zootopia, but then also some of these releases maybe not tracking on the scale of a Wicked or Zootopia, and just keep the attendance high throughout the month and have a little bit more momentum in November than we saw in October.
Rebecca, from your lips in terms of the momentum, be getting more momentum going into December. And as always, thank you for helping us interpret the numbers.
Thank you for having me.
Now we'll hear from Jordan Moreau, Variety's senior online news editor. He's a big consumer of pop culture, and he has an encyclopedic knowledge of some big fandoms. He got the chance to profile Edgar Wright, the British director known for stylish picks such as Shaun of the Dead, Baby Driver, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Wright recognized Jordan as a real fan, and as such, he got a great interview. Jordan Moreau, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Cynthia. Excited to make my Daily Variety debut.
Well, I am stoked because by day, you are one of the captains of our digital team. You are there in the East Coast dealing with the deluge of news that comes at us every morning. You also put together the Daily Variety newsletter, which spreads the word of the big news of the day, and it spreads the word of the podcast that runs Monday through Thursday by 10 a.m. Pacific most days, and Strictly Business on Friday. So thank you for doing that and getting the word out. But I was excited to see that you had a chance to flex a different muscle and do a profile of an artist that means a lot to you, the director Edgar Wright, who has been one of the standout directors of the last 10, 15 years, has truly built a brand unto himself. People know now what an Edgar Wright movie is. The occasion for this story is he's got a big new movie coming out, a big swing for him, a big studio picture called The Running Man. Glenn Powell's the star. It's a Stephen King book. It's very high profile for him. I love in journalism, you get so much just by being the fly on the wall and watching how people interact. Tell us where you met and what it was like to sit with him, somebody who you've been a fan of for a long time.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Edgar Wright. I mean, watching Shaun of the Dead when I was a kid and really getting into the zombie genre, his British comedy, the action sequences. I think he's a great director of it all. We met at New York Comic Con. He did a panel for The Running Man, and we chatted afterward deep in the bowels of the Javits Center, away from all the craziness and all the cosplayers, which I love. I'm a big Comic-Con fan. Really, really nice guy. I mean, he has that same British sense of humor that you see in his movies. Such a film encyclopedia. He's making all these references to movies that I had never heard of that I added to my, must-watch list. So he filmed this in London, Bulgaria, and Glasgow. Some really, really cold shoots that he told me about.
Your opening anecdote makes me shiver just thinking about it. I'm not going to spoil it for readers, but it is a good one. And it does show you that there's a lot of glamorous parts to acting, but there's a lot of very unglamorous parts. I know sometimes it can be hard with somebody you just met to try to develop any kind of a rapport where you're not just firing questions and they respond and then you fire another question. How was that for you? Was he forthcoming? Your quotes, he's so articulate about his vision and what works in his world. Was it hard getting there, or was he just a great interview from the get-go?
Yeah, we warmed up pretty quick, I would say, and kind of got into it. I did my homework over the summer and read the Running Man novel by Stephen King, and I watched the first adaptation of it was this Schwarzenegger movie that was much more action-packed and schlocky and not really close to the original source material. And Edgar is definitely playing it a bit more close to the original story. I was there to talk about the nitty-gritty and figure out what's different, what's new, how he's adapting it for, this new audience, especially in a world that we find ourselves in now with politics, AI, technology, reality TV, this edited reality that we watch for entertainment, that these are real people's lives, kind of, at least for the Running Man on the run, being murdered, on TV for entertainment. So he talks about it all.
I'm marveling at how Stephen King touched on this in the 70s, the world that we were going to be living in 30 and 40 years later.
It was very ahead of its time. The book, surprisingly and funnily enough, is set in 2025. There are moments in the book that I had to ask him about. This government TV show uses AI to alter the images of the contestants to make them look like violent criminals, drug addicts, make them look crazy. And I mean, that is something we are seeing right now with AI and all these new things on social media. You're not sure what's real, what's not. And so I asked him about that, and we were talking about AI for a bit. And funny enough, this whole Tilly Norwood situation, it was on my list of questions to ask him what he thought about this AI actress. And he brought Tilly up himself. So obviously, he keeps up with the evolving technology. Director or filmmaker, you have to be ready for whatever's going to change.
Did you get the sense that he is a little antsy or be a little nervous about this opening?
Yeah, I mean, this is his biggest budget ever. But I think one of the things that he does so well throughout his career is he has this big starry cast that he utilizes in such a great way to tell a story. In Scott Pilgrim, he had very early on Michael Cera, Chris Evans, Brie Larson, Kieran Culkin, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. He has these major names in the ensemble cast that he really utilizes to the fullest of his ability. And I think the same way for Running Man. Glenn Powell, this is his first big action role. And with a director like Edgar, bringing the comedy, the action, the sci-fi elements, I think it's going to work out well. And he had Michael Cera, Coleman Domingo, Josh Brolin, lots of big names in this one as well. So it really is his first big major studio release. His most recent movie, Last Night in Soho, came out during the pandemic. So this is his big return to theaters. And he knows that.
As many words as you have, there's always stuff that you can't quite fit into the story. Did you have any fun moments with Edgar or in the reporting process of this story?
I interviewed Simon Pegg and Nick Frost ahead of time, his kind of two closest collaborators, two really good friends. With Nick Frost is a comedian, obviously, but now is going to be Hagrid in the Harry Potter live-action HBO series that's coming up. And so I asked Edgar what was his first reaction to hearing his friend is going to be Hagrid now across all 7 seasons. And he said that they were shooting Running Man pickups in the UK nearby where Nick was shooting Harry Potter. He went to the Running Man studio dressed as Hagrid, and there's a photo out there of Glenn Powell in his Running Man costume with Nick Frost dressed as Hagrid from Harry Potter. And Edgar with his long, shaggy black hair. And I am not a fashion guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he was wearing this very cool black pinstripe suit with these, gray pinstripes. Armani, he says. He makes this joke and he says, I look like the prisoner of Azkaban. He looks like Sirius Black, Gary Oldman's character from Harry Potter dressed as a prison inmate. Such a funny little line. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so I understood it 100% immediately. Harder to articulate over print, unfortunately. So didn't make it into the story, but that's kind of, I was looking at Sirius Black from Harry Potter.
You're painting the picture that is really fun for people that are so deep into this. Well, Jordan, you did your job because now I officially want to go see this movie. So appreciate you taking the time to talk through your time with Edgar Wright with us.
Oh, thank you so much, Cynthia.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. A new era for Sesame Street begins today with the show's debut on Netflix. The American film market opens Tuesday in Century City. We'll hear all about it from Variety's Elsa Kaslasi later in the week. Before I go, I want to share a clip from the Bob Broder Memorial that was held on Saturday at the Stephen J. Ross Theater on the Warner Brothers lot. Chuck Lorre, James Burrows, Glenn and Les Charles, Ted Danson, Chris Silberman, and Eddie Gorodetsky were among the speakers. Here is a clip of the Kaddish prayer that was said for Bob Broder, led by Rabbi Stephen Z. Leader of the Wilshire Boulevard Temple. It's a beautiful send-off for a man of great substance.
V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kari v'imaru amen. Yehei shemei rabba nevorach leolam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kutsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushvachata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'imaru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemayim. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imaru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imaru, amen. Please be seated.
Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Rebecca Rubin and Jordan Moreau. Stick, snakes, hick, picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.